Music has gotten me through some tough times. I would be a different person without music. It speaks to me. It's an amazing thing that nobody should be without. It uplifts my spirit. Every time I sing, it makes me happy. If music got...
Drums are beating all around the world. The rhythm is rocking every boy and girl. Though we seem different in each other's eyes, when we hear the rhythm we realize we are the music makers. We are the music makers. Rhythm and rhyme and harmony, put them all together with a melody. From east to west, the whole world through, the rhythm will unite both me and you. We are the music makers. We are the music makers. Let our voices ring, our song forever sing. We are the music makers. So people on the planet, listen to our song. The world should be the place where you can get along. Lift your voice, beat your drum. Music making is for everyone. We are the music makers. We are the music makers. Let our voices ring, our song forever sing. We are the music makers. Music makers. Yeah.
Our next song is going to feature a student composer. Jay Sean Williams, who's now a 6th grader, came to me in 5th grade with an idea for a drum beat. And he not only wanted to use some drums, but he also wanted to use some household items. And Jay Sean will be featured on the drums today. Jay Sean, take a bow over there. Thank you, Jay Sean.
Music is important to me because after a long day, it helps me unwind and focus. Music is really helpful to me before a test. I think of a rhythm or a beat to help me concentrate. Most importantly, music is a huge part of my life. I really don't know what I would do without it.
The next piece that we have is actually a piece that we won an award on. They had, last year, the state of Florida had a literacy competition, and you had to write a 30-second commercial, and it had to be about how reading accelerates your success. And so I worked with a group of students, and we came up with this public service announcement. And last year we got to go to Kennedy Space Center, and we received the first place award in the elementary category for our public service announcement. So give these kids a big hand. And now you're going to get a chance to hear it. Every year at Saturn, our principal, Dr. Michael Miller, chooses a theme. And this year, our theme is Learning is Not a Spectator Sport, Let's Play. And each year I write a song about that theme. So next we are going to have our students perform our Let's Play school theme song.
Learning is not a spectator sport. Let's play. Let's play. Learning is not a spectator sport. Let's play. Let's play. The game is on when you get to school. Working hard is the #1 goal. Perseverance and practice make a winning team. Aim for the top to reach your dream. Let's play. Let's play. Let's play. Don't sit and watch if you want to succeed. A place at the top is not guaranteed. Keep on working, there's so much to gain. Get off the bench and get in the game. Let's play. Let's play. Let's play. Play. Education is key if you want to succeed. A pleasant life is the goal. When you check out, you have to get back in. Learning is not a spectator sport. Let's win. Let's win. Let's win. Let's win.
Our students during this piece. And also during this piece, we are going to have a guest conductor, one of our students, a student conductor. At Saturn, we really believe that students should have the opportunity to sing music and play music and create music, like you heard Jay Sean's piece. And we also have student conductors. And so Ashlyn Friend is going to be our student conductor for this piece called Orferando. Thank you so much, and let's give a big hand for our school board members. Woohoo! And Ashlyn, our student conductor, you need to take a bow as well. Thank you, Ashlyn. We'd like to thank the school board of Brevard County for inviting us to be a part of the performance this evening. And we're going to end with a song that is very near and dear to my heart. It is called Walk the World Now, Children. And this really embodies why I became a music teacher, and being able to share music every day with all of these wonderful students is really such a privilege, and it makes me emotional sometimes when I think about it. So thank you, boys and girls, for being such awesome superstars. Let's give them another hand. Walk the world now, children, walk it now with me. Walk the world now, children, walk it now with me. Walk the world now, children, treat it lovingly, and the world will last forever and a day.
Drink the water, children. Drink it now with me. Drink the water, children. Drink it now with me. Drink the water, children. Treat it lovingly, and the world will last forever
Good evening. The special school board meeting for October 14th, 2014 is now in session. Pam, roll call, please.
Mrs. Henderson?
Here.
Mrs. Nisi?
Here.
Dr. Krupp?
Here.
Dr. Murray?
Here.
Mr. Ziegler?
Here.
This evening, we have two students from Saturn Elementary to assist us in the opening exercises. Elizabeth Lieb, 6th grade, will present the invocation, followed by Shakira Robertson, also in the 6th grade, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to ask you both to remain at the podium so we can have an opportunity to talk when you're through. Elizabeth?
I am reading a poem by Martin Dzinski called Give It Our All. Let us never give in to complaints nor fear, with our eyes on our goals, in the right direction we steer. No matter the circumstances, with great effort we should always try. We must pick ourselves up when we get bruised and we cry. Opportunities are plentiful, let's just open our eyes. Our dreams we shall nurture as we stare to the skies. The trick is to create value that's honest and real by following our passions in our hearts. We shall feel if we never hold back and just give it our all. No challenge or obstacle shall ever be tall.
Very nice, thank you.
May everyone please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Shakira. Stay there. And Shakira, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Oh, I go to Saturn Elementary, and my last name is I like basketball in school. That's all.
Do you have a favorite subject in school?
Yes, reading.
Reading.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently you like music too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It says here that you're in Book Bash.
Yes.
What do you do there?
We do like a little, like 3 things. It's called, we do book jacket, we do trivia, and we do the reader's theater.
Very nice. And that's a all day long
Not all,
or all week or
No, so like 2 days a week.
2 days a week? Very good. It also says you're in Safety Patrol
Yes.
and NEHS. What's that?
National Elementary Honor Society.
Oh, very nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you have anyone here with you tonight?
Yes, my mom.
Would Mom please stand so we can recognize you? So if there was something at your school that you would change, what would it be?
The playground system.
Is that on your list, Dane? No. What's the matter with the playground system?
Like the slide is broken, but it's like too little for the big kids.
Oh.
Yeah.
And what is your favorite thing about the school?
Oh, the activity teachers, and I like them. They're funny.
They're fun.
And nice.
Well, thank you for being with us tonight.
You're welcome.
And now I'd like to ask Elizabeth some questions. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I go to Saturn Elementary. I like to do cheerleading and gymnastics. And that's all.
It says here that you like chorus and strings.
Yes, I play the viola.
Oh, very nice. How long have you been doing that?
2 years.
2 years. This your second year?
Yes.
Very good. It's very nice that we still have those programs in our elementary schools. So you do enjoy it, right?
Yes.
Yes. Are there a lot of kids in strings?
No.
How many?
There's about 8 to 10.
Oh, very nice. Well, I bet you can still make some beautiful music.
Yes.
And if there's something in your school that you would change, what would that be?
I would say the fields at PE.
The fields at PE?
Yes.
Because?
Because the grass is really long, and so when we run around the field, it scrapes our legs and makes us itchy.
Interesting. We didn't get lunch this time. And what's your favorite thing about your school?
My music teacher.
Oh, wow. Do you have somebody here with you tonight?
Yes, my grandma, my dad, and my mom, and my brother.
Oh, could you please stand so we can recognize you? Well, thank you very much for
You're
being
welcome.
with us tonight. And you may go back to your, it's now my pleasure to introduce the Saturn Elementary Music Makers, grade 3 through 6, under the direction of Joni Slauson. We have certainly enjoyed the entertainment prior to the school board meeting and look forward to the students performing one additional number.
Walk the world now, children. Walk it now with me. Walk the world now, children. Walk it now with me. Walk the world now, children. Treat it lovingly, and the world will last forever and a day.
Drink the water, children. Drink it now with me. Drink the water, children. Drink it now with me. Drink the water, children. Treat it lovingly, and the world will last forever and a day. Breathe the air now, children. Breathe it now with me. Breathe the air now, children. Breathe it now with me. Breathe the air now, children. Treat it lovingly, and the world will last forever and a day. Work the land now, children. Work it now with me. Work the land now, children. Work it now with me. Work the land now, children. Treat it lovingly, and the world will last forever and a day.
Walk, walk the world now. Walk, walk the world now.
Walk the world now,
Walk
children.
the world now.
Walk it now with
Walk the
me.
world now.
Walk the world now,
Walk the
children.
world now.
Walk it now with me. Walk the world now, children. Treat it lovingly, and
Well, that was wonderful. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Ms. Lawson and her students for being with us tonight. And they're also teachers because they taught all of us board members how to play the triangle. So if you didn't see the school board ensemble, you missed it. So we would like to thank you for showing us how to play and allowing us to be a part of your group tonight. That was a first for me. So thank you.
Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
And at this time, we're going to take a short recess so they can gather their things. Okay, we're back, and that brings us to the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Bingley.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. Members of the board, on the published agenda, we have an administrative staff recommendation, 1 recognition item, 1 proclamation, 3 presentations, 19 consent items not previously submitted for information, 6 consent items previously submitted for information, and 9 information items. You also have the yellow supplemental agenda, which are changes made to the agenda since being released to the public. You have 1 addition under the A7 on administrative staff recommendations, under item A7. Under the consent agenda, you have 2 additions, item F15 on student expulsions and item F23 on salary enhancements for non-bargaining personnel, 2 revisions on item F15, legislative priorities, and item F22 on instructional staff recommendations, as well as 1 deletion, item F29 on Heritage High School Marching Band trip to Winston-Salem State University in North Carolina.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to accept.
Moved by Dr. Krupp, seconded by Dr. Murray. Is there any discussion? Let's vote. Dr. Bingley, we are now ready. Oh, the motion carries 5-0. Sorry. Dr. Bingley, we are now ready for the administrative staff recommendations portion.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. There is 1 recommendation on tonight's agenda for the board to consider.
What are the wishes of the board?
To approve.
Moved by Dr. Krupp, seconded by Mrs. Nisi. Is there any discussion? Let's vote. And the motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. And at this time, I would like to take an opportunity to welcome Edward Parker to the position of Director of Purchasing and Warehouse Services effective November 3rd, 2014. Mr. Parker will be coming to us from Florida Virtual School. Mr. Parker, we welcome you, and as our custom, we let you stand up and tell us just how glad you are to be moving into this new position. And introduce anybody that might be here with you.
Yeah, first of all, let me introduce my wife, Dawn Parker, for 34 years. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to serve students here at Brevard Steuben County. I am truly thankful for the opportunity.
Well, Ms. Parker, I always take this opportunity to thank those who come here with our candidates. Now, 34 years, you know the drill. But I still want to say thank you for the love and the patience it takes to help us and help Edward do the work that we do. So we welcome both of you here tonight into Brevard Public Schools.
Thank you, Dr. Bingley. That brings us to the recognition of visitors and awards.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. There is 1 recognition item on this evening's agenda. Item B8 is our Spotlight on Education segment, which shares many exciting, innovative, and excellent programs, activities, and projects happening in our schools. Featured this evening is Sea Park Elementary School representatives who will be discussing their involvement in the Take a Vet to School Day, a program to help our students learn more about the history of Veterans Day and about the experiences of veterans from all backgrounds and all walks of life. So please welcome Sea Park Principal Mrs. Ina Leiba and Mrs. Samantha McGill, Media Specialist, as our presenters this evening.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Bingley, and guests. Again, my name is Ina Leiba, Principal at Sea Park Elementary, and we're here tonight to showcase our Take a Vet to School Day event. I would like to introduce again Mrs. McGill, who is instrumental in putting this program together for the last 6 years. She will be doing a quick synopsis about the event at this time.
Good evening. Take a Vet to School Day is a national program developed in 2007 by the History Channel to link veterans with students nationwide. Schools and communities invite veterans from all backgrounds to share their stories, receive thanks for their service. The purpose and benefits of this program is to help our students learn more about the history of Veterans Day and their experiences of veterans from all backgrounds and walk of life. The veterans benefit when they share these stories and connects generations while helping young people learn from the past.
CPARC has been involved with the Take a Vet to School Day event since 2008. We are very fortunate to have had support from our PTO, Olive Garden Restaurant in Melbourne, Bright House Network, and the History Channel each year. Last year, we welcomed over 100 veterans to our program, and we're hoping to do the same again this year. Tonight, we're going to feature a segment from our Veterans Day activities from last year, so please direct your attention to the screen.
When CPARC started the Take a Veteran to School Day program 5 years ago, they had around 30 veterans attend. One veteran that has been coming to CPARC and participating each year is World War II Army veteran Joe Caldero.
But I've seen all these indications of thanking us for what we did. I'm probably the oldest person in this room, so I appreciate to be here and to be considered an individual. I didn't know I was that important until I came to this school 5 years ago. And you people are great. You may be one of the smallest schools in the system, but you've got a gigantic heart. I thank you for thinking of it.
Well, I know that CPARC Elementary School was really thrilled to have you down here and be part of the program. What is your impression of today?
Oh, well, CPARC is just such a great success story. It's they've been having a Veterans Day assembly year after year, and it keeps getting bigger. So, I don't know what they're going to do next year. There are over 100 veterans here this year, and it's been terrific, from the faculty to the parents to the military personnel that show up to teach the kids what it means to serve. It's really an exemplary Take a Veteran to School Day here at CPARC.
Let's now take a moment to hear from some of the honorary veterans.
My name is Bob Cooper. My military service was in the United States Navy for 23 years in Naval Air Force. The reason I'm here today is not only to be here as a veteran for the kids, but to bring to them a message about our missing in action and prisoners of war.
As far as today's program here by the kids, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel great. Coming into a school and having all the children here are aware of the military. They're aware of what the military is doing. They support everything that we do, and they're proud to have us here, and that makes me proud.
Marianne Smith, and I'm with the U.S. Air Force. Well, I think it's a great opportunity to educate school-age children on the military and the different branches of the service and the different things that we do to help the community. And my son attends school here, so I got to speak to his class, so I really did enjoy that, and I just think it was a lot of fun.
Hi, I'm Kristen Daly. I'm with the U.S. Air Force at Patrick Air Force Base, and it means a lot that the kids took the time out of their day just to honor us, and I actually got choked up when they were singing songs. It was very nice, and I was glad to be here.
I'm Sade Spencer, and I'm also at the Patrick Air Force Base 45th Security Forces, and it's a big honor to have such young children that realize the importance of the veterans and what we've done and what we've sacrificed as far as time goes and energy to make sure that they can sleep at night.
Sergeant Brown, could you give us your impressions of today's program here at CPARC and what it means to someone who is serving in the military right now?
Yes, sir. It's pretty outstanding, simply just because it's bringing American children together and letting them know that we have war fighters out there who are trying to protect them and keep them safe, and letting them know that our mission isn't to go and hurt anybody, but it's to keep the United States safe and to protect them and everything. It's outstanding, sir.
What do you think of today's program? I know you've coordinated it and put it on, and it's a pretty fantastic event. What are your thoughts about it?
I just hope that everybody comes away having a better understanding of what veterans do for us, as well as the fact that the veterans that came here, I hope they feel honored and sense of pride that we feel we're proud of them. So I'm really excited that so many people came out. Overwhelmed, actually, about that. But I think it's important that the kids learn it, and if anybody at this school, they know it. From pre-K through 6th grade, they did an amazing job for the past 6 weeks working on their projects. They really did. And I think it came out pretty good.
We're very proud to be in partnership with Bright House and the History Channel for allowing us to air this program, and we look forward to doing this again next year. Just want to say thank you to the board for giving us this opportunity to spotlight Sea Park Elementary. Any questions?
Any questions?
No? Thank you very much.
What a wonderful program.
Thank you. Hope you guys could join us this year.
Dr. Bingley, I think we're ready for resolutions and proclamations.
Yes, Ms. Anderson, there is one proclamation on tonight's agenda. Item C9 is a proclamation for keeping the lights on after school. Michelle Irwin, Director of Community Relations, will read it for us. Ms. Irwin?
Whereas Brevard Public Schools, Office of Adult and Community Education, Department of School-Aged Child Care stands firmly committed to quality after-school programs and opportunities because they provide safe, challenging, and engaging learning experiences that help children develop social, emotional, physical, and academic skills, support working families by ensuring their children are safe and productive after the regular school day ends, build stronger communities by involving students, parents, business leaders, and adult volunteers in the lives of young people, thereby promoting positive relationships among youth, families, and adults, engage families, schools, and community partners in advancing the welfare of our children. Whereas the Brevard Public Schools Office of Adult and Community Education, Department of School-Aged Child Care has provided significant leadership in the area of community involvement in the education and well-being of our youth, grounded in the principle that quality after-school programs are key to helping our children become successful adults. Whereas Lights On After School, the national celebration of after-school programs held this year on October 23, 2014, promotes the importance of quality after-school programs in the lives of children, families, and communities. Whereas more than 28 million children in the U.S. have parents who work outside the home, and 15.1 million children have no place to go after school. Whereas many after-school programs across the country are facing funding shortfalls so severe that they are being forced to close their doors and turn off their lights. Therefore, be it resolved that Brevard Public Schools, Office of Adult and Community Education, Department of School-Aged Child Care urges the citizens of Brevard County to ensure that every child has access to a safe, engaging place where the lights are on after school. And be it further resolved that board members and staff of Brevard Public Schools enthusiastically endorse Lights On After School and are committed to innovative after-school programs and activities that ensure that the lights stay on and the doors stay open for all children after school.
Thank you, Ms. Irwin. What are the wishes of the board? Move to approve.
Second.
It was moved by Dr. Murray, seconded by Dr. Krupp. Any discussion? Let's vote. Motion carries 5-0. That brings us to the presentation portion of tonight's agenda. Dr. Bingley?
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. We have 3 presentations on this evening's agenda. First, as I have done the last few meetings, as we continue to get information related to some of the achievements of our students and our staff in our schools, I would like to have another update on some of those achievements that, in fact, are coming our way from in Brevard Public Schools. I thought as I engaged in these presentations, I would start having musical interludes before them to, kind of set the tone. No, as you probably guess, there is, in fact, if you don't know, an all-national, best in the nation ensemble that all state musicians have the opportunity to audition for, and Brevard is home to indeed of one of these finest musicians in the nation, and she is Rebecca Hagins from Bayside High School. So, if Rebecca, and I know her mom is with her, right? Come on up and we can get a picture taken. When do you play in the Grand Ole Opry?
A week and a half from now.
Week and a half from now. Well, you're ready as far as I'm concerned. Admittedly, I'm the untrained ear, but I think you're ready. We also have another student here that we want to recognize as one of 30 national finalists for Broadcom Masters. For those of you who don't know, Broadcom Masters basically represents the best research for middle school students in the nation. There were 300 national semifinalists, and I think I mentioned to you last time that we have more than our share of those. And once again, we have a national finalist. I say once again, statistically, from just a pure numbers standpoint, if you just went on numbers alone, Brevard should have one of these Broadcom Master finalists about every 25 years. We have had one in each of the last 3 years. And this year, it is Muhammad Abdullah, 9th grade student from West Shore, junior, senior, and he is with us here tonight. So let's have Muhammad, his parents, even his principal, come on up here. I'm sure they're really curious what your research is.
Well, what I'm doing this year is I'm using two kinds of mathematical analysis to measure medical data. And with these two kinds of analysis, I'm comparing them to the current methods used by doctors today. And using these, I'm able to analyze medical data more accurately, more consistently, and thus classify them in a way that's better for the patients.
And Muhammad competes October 24th in Washington, D.C., right? I know it'll be a great experience. We are very, very proud of you. Congratulations. I wanted to also bring here this evening, we got a multitude of staff who were recognized by their own associations, their own peers, who generally know who's doing excellent work. And so we just had quite a few in the spring, summer, and even starting into the fall recognized as the best in the state by their peers. So we would like to bring those folks forward. First of all, we actually have the elementary school Social Studies Teacher of the Year for the state of Florida, Lisa Burke from Lewis Carroll Elementary School. I I think, yes, she had a commitment. That's correct. But we also have William Booth, high school Florida Social Studies Teacher of the Year from Mel High. Mr. Booth, come on up. And come on up and bring anybody with you. Yeah. No, she's not.
Yeah, I think she'd rather sit
Oh,
there.
okay. Well, whatever. There you go. We have several, actually 3 staff members who were recognized as best in the state in the area of health and wellness. With us here this evening is the middle school Florida Physical Education Teacher of the Year, Ashley Riley from Central Middle. Come on up, Ashley. From O'Galley High, we actually had the high school Physical Education Teacher of the Year. Now, I know Barbara could not be with us this evening. I think she is coaching something. Volleyball, okay. But also with us, Enrique Luna, who is recognized as the Athletic Trainer of the Year by the Southeast Athletic Training Association, I think, or something of that nature, right? Be that as it may, you've been recognized by your peers as one of the best. So, Enrique, we are proud of you. Please come on up and bring all, anybody with you, come on up. Wow, look at that. Jumped right up on the screen. The Florida Music Educator Association gives certainly a battery of awards, but every year they also recognize an administrator who has just done an exemplary job in leading music education in their school. And this year, Mr. Rick Fleming, West Shore, I think I read where the music participation has doubled under your tenure at West Shore, and so you were recognized by the Florida Middle School Educator, or Florida Music Educators Association as Secondary Administrator of the Year. Please come on up, Mr. Fleming. Oops. Last year, also recognized by his national association, is Ryan Silsick from Edgewood Junior Senior High, who was recognized as Florida's best biology teacher. Mr. Silsick, please come on forward. We just I guess a week or two ago, realized that we had certainly done well in literacy awards for the state of Florida. We, in fact, have the District Literacy Leader of the Year, and that is Debbie Wood of Elementary Programs. Debbie, congratulations. We also have the best literacy coach in the state of Florida, and that is Jessica Webb, who serves Suntree Elementary and Meadow Lane Intermediate. Actually, now it's not Suntree, right? Williams and Meadow Lane. Used to be Suntree. You're doing great no matter where you are. And I believe, finally, we also have, as recognized by the Florida Association of Speech-Language Pathologists and Audiologists, the Clinicians Award, which recognizes, as I understand it, the best in the state, Dr. Patrick Cranen from Titusville High School. And so come on up. Again, we were so impressed by the fact that this really does cross the spectrum. These are all folks who were recognized by their peers as just serving the mission in an exemplary fashion. So we really appreciate the opportunity to recognize them tonight. Actually now, into what is a Career Hall of Fame. The Florida Association for Career and Technical Ed has recently inducted Janice Schultz, our own CTE director. Janice, please come forward. Janice said that means you're old, but I think it means you're accomplished. But the International Technology and Engineering Educators Association, Distinguished Technology and Engineering Professional, Dennis Soboleski, our CTE resource teacher. Dennis, congratulations. And we do thank all of you for coming this evening. The last thing I will present, I promised you all that there was SAT data that was coming. I think I shared with you last time. I can't wait to share it with you. Well, here it is. I'm allowed to share it with you now. And I think it really just follows, we've got great students. We've got great teachers, so we ought to have great results for students. Now, this is a slide that I've been taking out on the road with me. I've used it over 100 and some times at a variety of audiences, sharing that in 2013 our kids did increase while scores decreased slightly nationally, and showed how our kids had scored higher than the national average. And then we had last year's seniors, and this is what they did. And that shares with you what Brevard students did compared to what happened in the state of Florida and what happened in the nation. Now, I will tell you, and I've already shared with the board, you know, the number of students who took the SAT in 2014 is virtually the same, almost identical as the number of who took it 5 years ago. So as these gains are occurring, it really is because our kids are demonstrating more success. So now we add to that slide these numbers. These are the points that Brevard students are now ahead of their national peers on the SAT. And that's not a small margin. So we're appreciative of the opportunity to bring these achievements and recognize these outstanding students and teachers here this evening. And I will entertain any questions that the board may have.
No.
Okay, thank you very, very much.
We're good. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bingley. That was all good news. And now we're ready for the next presentation.
We are. Tonight, Randy Wheeler, Assistant Director of Transportation Services, along with Lieutenant Mike Scully, Director of District and School Security, and Don Ross from Matthews Buses will provide a presentation on National School Bus Safety Week.
Good evening, board members, superintendent. If I could ask you to flash back for just a moment to the September 23rd meeting, you're likely to remember that you approved a proclamation whereas Brevard Public Schools will recognize October 20th through 24th as National School Bus Safety Week. Now, one of the lines that was in that proclamation is one that many of you have probably heard a dozen times, and that is school bus transportation is one of the safest forms of transportation in the United States. It's true, school buses have an impeccable safety record, and that is because a school bus is actually a system of elements that come together all with the intention of mitigating risk and enhancing student safety. The way the buses are designed and built, the way we maintain them, our 30 school day safety inspections, the color, the lights, the marking, the way we screen, train, and hire our bus drivers, even the location of the bus stops are all with a single purpose, and that's to control the risk to the students. But sadly, there's one element that we have little or no control over, and that is other drivers. And if you were to query school bus operators across the country and ask them, what keeps you up at night? What they're likely to say is illegal passing. Now, what that is a bus is stopped at a student stop with the big red lights flashing, the stop sign out, but yet the other traffic continues to drive by and pass the bus. We also call it stop arm running. The reason that school buses, by the way, is the only vehicle by statute that control the flow of traffic other than law enforcement and fire rescue, but the reason is to create a safety zone around the bus so that the students can move about in relative safety. It's kind of the antithesis of an ice cream truck. Sadly, though, illegal passing, it's a national issue. We're not the only ones that have this issue, but we're also not immune. Every day, our bus drivers here in Brevard have to grapple with illegal passing. But I'm not going to stand up here and try to tell you what a serious problem is. What I'd like to do is show you a little video where our very own drivers, in their words, talk to you about what a challenge it is for them.
I drive on US 1, and that's probably the worst offended place in Florida. US 1, I have cars going by every day, going by the stop signs. They just ignore them. They drive by on the left-hand side. It happens almost on a daily basis.
I've had a lot of close calls
students almost getting hit because of the fact they do run our stop arms.
And the most difficult part about it is identifying them. You know, they'll always ask, well, what was the license number, or what did the car look like? And you're so concerned about the kids not getting hit, you rarely get a chance to identify the driver. So I'd say that's the biggest problem. I probably, out of all the hundreds of them that have done it over the years, probably I only got maybe a couple of license numbers.
Everybody's in a rush. I've had my kids come across the road from the left and the driver passed me on the right. I laid on the horn for them to stop. Thank God they stopped.
And I had to grab a kid by his shirt just to keep him from stepping out in front of the car. The car went around us on the side as the kids were getting out. So, I mean, that was pretty scary. I thought, sure, somebody was going to get hurt, but it was just a miracle that nobody got run over on that one.
They need to start paying attention. You know, it could be one of their students crossing that road that could possibly get hit and killed.
What would I say to a stop arm runner? I would ask them how would they feel if that was their child running across the street and somebody came up and hit them. That's what they're doing. They're putting somebody else's child in danger by running our stop arms.
Okay, in order to keep the video short, we only let 4 bus drivers talk to you, but I promise you there are many, many more out there just like these that share the same level of commitment to the safety of our students here in Brevard. So a question you might ask is, how serious is this? Well, it just so happens we measure it, well, at least once a year. Every year about March, Department of Education and the Florida Association for Pupil Transportation, they invite all the Florida districts to participate in an illegal passing survey. And basically what we do is we have all our bus drivers just keep a tally of how many times they have an incident of illegal passing. And for us here in Brevard, these are our numbers. In one day, we had 270 tallies, documented incidents where a vehicle did not stop at a school bus. A student stopped, lights on, the stop arm is out. So that's just one day, all buses, by the way. To look at it another way, each day, our buses make about 7,700 student stops, pickups in the morning, drop-offs in the afternoon. And this means about 4% of those each day has an incident of stop arm running. Now, if we presume that 270 is the number and each driver that day had only one incidence of stop arm running, what that could mean is of the 356 daily routes, 75% of them had a stop arm runner this day. And if you want to look at it another way, if we presume 270 is the number that we experience on a daily basis and we take that out to the 180 days of school year, we now have over 48,000 incidents of stop arm running. Care to guess what keeps us awake at night? So real quick, the statewide average on that day for the survey was over 9,300 stop arm violations. Not all the districts reported, most of them did. So the next logical question is, why is it a problem and what can we do about that? So for that, I'm going to turn it over to my wingman, Lieutenant Scully, to talk and perhaps answer a couple of those questions.
Thank you, Randy. I hope we don't crash and burn if you're relying on me to be your wingman on this. Good evening. We'd like to talk just a little bit about what the law requires, and I think most motorists do understand that it is illegal to pass a stopped school bus. So what we have here really is a situation where we have to educate our motorists. We have to educate our citizens as to what exactly the law does require. We don't want to get into a situation where we're getting strictly into enforcement. We have to approach this from the education perspective. So the law actually requires, and I don't have my glasses on, I'd read that to you, but essentially, if we have a stopped school bus, and there's 3 different scenarios that you're going to see, but the law requires that motorists in both directions stop for a stopped school bus when the stop arms are extended and the lights are flashing. And again, most drivers, it is confusing, the scenarios that they're faced with every day, because a lot of times the buses will be stopping fairly quickly. The drivers will see that there's a school bus ahead of them, but they may not necessarily know where the bus stop is. So when the lights do come on, the yellow lights come on initially, the drivers are then scrambling for the do I stop or don't I stop. So when I arrived at the district a couple of months ago, I met with the transportation leadership team, and they shared with me the statistics that Randy just shared with you, 270 stop arm violations in one day. If you multiply that 270 stop arm violations times the 180 school days that we have, that is a staggering number of stop arm violations. And it only takes one for us to have a tragedy. So the leadership team set out to create a video that our citizens could watch and hopefully would educate them in what the law requires them to do. So let me play that video for you, and hopefully, will this play on its own? Click over here. Click over here. Ah, okay. All right. And again, this video was created by the Department of Community Relations, did a terrific job, and I want to compliment Michelle and her people for doing an incredible job on these videos for us. What did I do, Randy?
Brevard Public Schools wants to remind you about some important bus safety laws while you're on the road. Here are some of the guidelines about what to do when a school bus is stopped, has its flashing lights on, and the stop sign arm is extended. If the road you're traveling on has 2 lanes, all traffic in both directions must stop. If the road you're on has no barrier in the center to divide traffic, even on a multi-lane road, all traffic on both sides must stop. If the road you're on has any type of barrier, whether it's grass, dirt, or a raised concrete median, all traffic lanes behind the bus must come to a complete stop. Oncoming traffic in the opposite lanes do not have to stop. It may continue with caution. Be sure to remember these simple rules every day when you're on the road to help keep our BPS students safe. Thank you very much.
Doesn't get much easier than that, but it makes it very simple and very concise for people to digest and really understand what the law requires. As part of this process, we met with our police chiefs here in Brevard, and we shared with them that statistic, 270 stop arm violations in a single day. And I will tell you, there are a lot of things that come to the attention of law enforcement, but when I shared that statistic with our police chiefs, they were stunned. They were truly stunned to understand and realize that we were having that big a problem with stop arm violations with our school buses. And I can tell you, across the board, every single chief that I spoke with gave their commitment to begin to step up and educate the citizens of their communities on this law. So we're going to be sharing these videos, both of those videos, with our law enforcement partners in hopes that they will share them on their websites and on their social media pages and make them available. In addition to that, we also met with our chiefs just immediately prior to school starting and asked them to step up their school zone enforcement efforts. And we've been working with each of the local police agencies, and this is a representative of the Titusville Police Department, but it was kind of interesting when first day of school, I got in the car to go start visiting schools, and by the time I got to the end of my street, I arrived at the first Titusville police car. And again, my first thought was, this is completely staged. This is for my benefit. And when I got a little bit further down the street, I realized that there was a municipal police officer, a Titusville police officer, in every school zone, and it was about educating our motorists, trying to remind people that school was open again, and that's the same type of thing that we have to do with our school bus. So we're asking our police chiefs, we're working with our law enforcement partners to get that message out to our motorists. We have these videos in place and ready for distribution, and I just want to commend our school bus drivers, all of the folks in transportation that do an incredible job for us every day.
All right, one last thing I'd like to do is, Don Ross wasn't able to be here today, but when one of our corporate partners, Matthews Buses, found out what we were trying to do here, they stepped up and offered to do something nice for us to help us honor and recognize National School Bus Safety Week. So I want to introduce Glenn Matthews. He's the president of Matthews Buses. They are one of the local Florida dealers of one of the 3 big school bus manufacturers. And Glenn, and let him talk for just a second and tell you what we would like to do. Oops. Sorry, Glenn. Sorry.
First of all, very impressed by that previous presentation. You have very talented students and teachers here in Brevard County. You'd be very, very proud of them. Let's give them another hand. I'd like to thank Janice Kershaw for reaching out for me from the Brevard Public Schools Foundation to provide this sponsorship, and we're obviously very proud to do that and happy to do that. We're providing shirts for the drivers and administrators and board members, and I believe even the superintendent, is it? Yep. And to bring awareness to school bus safety and School Bus Safety Week. So thank you very much. And these are the shirts. Arby's going to present them to the board members.
Come on down, we'll do a little photo. Sure. Come on.
You don't need to point that out.
Who wants to hold that one?
Everybody's in space tonight. Dr. Murray. Look at that. My kind of shirt. They have names on. We had to get the right size. That's an excellent. Just turn around. We gotta hold it on the right side. There you go.
We truly thank you guys, and Mr. Creech and all your staff, we really appreciate the phenomenal on-time and safety record that you guys bring to us every day. So thank you for keeping our kids safe.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I was talking to some parents about driver's ed classes. And interesting, I guess the new one is pretty difficult, but some of the questions that they ask are, how many inches does the trailer hitch have to be off the ground? When in fact, these are the kinds of questions that they should be asking kids about what they need to do around buses. So maybe they need to take a look at that particular education law. Anyway, Dr. Bailey?
Thank you. As directed by the board at the September 23rd board meeting, Dane Theodore is prepared to identify groups of schools that could be considered for the closure analysis process out of financial necessity. Mr. Theodore?
Thank you, Dr. Bingley, board. I have with me Joe Rinaldi, who, along with our facility planner, Dave Linneman, does the heavy lifting on the analysis of these types of issues. So, Joe, if you have a seat, I'll do the easy part, and then you can answer the questions. I've prepared a presentation in PDF as opposed to PowerPoint because I want to zoom in on some things. So I'm going to apologize in advance if I'm kind of fumbling and expanding this thing, but I do want to make sure that everyone sees some of the numbers that I'm going to present. And I do, before I start, want to put this in context. The only reason that we're here tonight is to identify the first step in a process that would ultimately result, if the board chooses to do so, in the identification of a school that could be considered for closure if there was a financial necessity driving that decision. So, again, the very first step in this process. The first step in that process is the criteria that you passed a couple of months ago, the criteria and guidelines for the school closure process and analysis. The first step is identifying a group of schools, and you see before you here highlighted in yellow the criteria that we use, Joe used, to identify that group of schools. They are obviously picking schools of the same type, schools with a low collective capacity, schools with stable or declining enrollment. You certainly wouldn't want to pick a school that had capacity today or a group of schools that was projected to increase in enrollment. Schools with bus travel times between school sites of no greater than 45 minutes, because you wouldn't want to select schools that you would assume that you're going to accommodate the students from a closed school at that has bus rides that are longer than we want to provide or the board has chosen to set as a limit. And then, of course, schools with sufficient remaining capacity to accommodate the students from that closed school. So, and you'll see below you the second step in that process. Should the board choose to proceed with this process, we would then put together a selection team that would look at each of the schools in the group and identify a school that most closely fits these weighted criteria that were approved by the board. So that is the second step. Again, we're just looking at the first step tonight. The first step in that process is identifying potential groups of schools, and this is a little small, but I'm going to go with the pointer here and say that these are the permanent capacity utilizations of our elementary schools. Green, the darker the green, the less capacity they have. You can see the very dark green is below 68%, and the red is above 101%. So, as a planner, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I need clarification on the way you're using some words. Are you talking about utilization or capacity? Because I think those are two different things. Utilization would be how the building is used and to the degree the seats are taken. I would think capacity would be the total number of seats that are available or those not in use. Can you clarify that before you proceed?
Dr. Murray, that would be the same thing. It's two terms for the same thing. In other words, what I'm looking at is how full the school is, the capacity that's utilized by the students. Therefore, if I'm looking at a school that is 80% utilized, I would have 20% of that capacity remaining. So what I want to look at is if I'm looking at schools with low utilization, or in other words, a lot of remaining space to accommodate students, I would be looking at schools in the green. So just looking at this map, and let me try to get it as large as I can here and still capture it. I've identified three potential areas in the elementary schools, one in the north Beaches, Merritt Island area, one in the South Beaches, starting at Sea Park and going south. This was a discussion that we went through a couple of years ago in terms of South Beaches being south of the Pineda. And there was another group in here that I thought that I would look at, or we would look at, which is the Quest Longleaf, both in the green, with Sable and several other schools in the 80 to 90% range, meaning that there would be potentially some available capacity. So we did want to test that. In the middle schools, we saw some potential here in the Delora, and Delora's on the beach, obviously, but its boundary goes on the mainland, and the Johnson, Jefferson, and Hoover, and I see that we're not naming Hoover here, but Hoover's over here. That area, I thought that we would give that a test just to see if that passed the capacity test, or available capacity test. And then in the high schools, there are, and let me go back to the middle school. You can see that Madison is dark green, but it's very difficult to move those students down. That group would consist of 2 schools, so perhaps 3 if you wanted to push them all the way through Jackson all the way down to Space Coast. So I thought that I would try something in this middle area. The same thing goes at the Astronaut in Titusville. There was not a lot of capacity in schools, but it did look like there might be an opportunity down here in the south part of the county with Palm Bay, Heritage, Melbourne, and Bayside. So we tested that. Well, then the first test that you're going to utilize from that criteria, it's kind of a go, no-go decision. If you don't have the capacity, there is no other test that you need to apply to that. So and I'm going to try to expand this so that it's visible, and let me try to take one at a time here. The South Central elementaries, those were the, it started at Quest and went down a little bit, Suntree, Longleaf, Sherwood, and Sable. As a group, as you looked at the enrollment and the total capacity, because again, in these groups, we want to look at total capacity and the school as the test, I chose to reduce it as a test by 700 students, taking out a school with capacity in the 700 range. That brings into the mix, or the potential closure, a school that's, let's say, Sherwood at 600, obviously, and Suntree at 755, which is more than the 700, but as you know, we in this process do not renew out-of-area students, so I thought that that was at least a viable starting point for my recommendations to you. You can see, though, that even at 700, that's going to put you in the 99% range for capacity, so I declared that an insufficient capacity, and that didn't pass the test. The Central Middle Schools, the same thing with Delora, Hoover, Jefferson, and Johnson. I chose 800, which on the capacity brought in Hoover and was just short again on Jefferson, 50 short of that. But again, it's a starting point, and I thought it was a viable starting point as a recommendation. That did not pass the capacity test with 101%. The South High Schools, the same thing. They are at 100%. Now, they do have, I want to note, Bayside has 8 surplus portables available to open with the turn of a key and add to that capacity, as does Palm Bay with 10 surplus portables. The problem with that is twofold. One, and if I can get to my notes, excuse me, though the total of those potential surplus portables is 427 students, which represents about 6% of that capacity, meaning that you would put the total group into about a 94% capacity utilization range. Well, I don't believe that that passes the test for 2 reasons. One, our most crowded schools in terms of total utilization are Melbourne at 91%, which you can see there, and Cocoa High School, junior, senior, Cocoa High School at 91%. The next one is Satellite at 86%. So we have 2 schools operating at 90s, and then the rest of them are in the 80s or low 80s, mid to low 80s. More so, the projection for that group in the next 3 years is an additional 400 students. So given those two viewpoints or perspectives on that group, I again declared that to have insufficient capacity, both on current students and projected students. We would then go to the last 2, and that would be the South Beaches and the North Beaches Merritt Island groups. Gemini, Holland, Indy Atlantic, Ocean Breeze, Sea Park, and Surfside in the South Beaches. That was at 93%. And while we would aim theoretically for a 90% cap on that, a couple of issues I would like to point out. One, we have 6 elementary schools, obviously Indy Atlantic included at 96%, that are operating at 93 or above in terms of capacity utilization. So we can do that. I therefore declared that to be a viable grouping. More so, we have on the beaches a lot of out of areas that are from the mainland. As a matter of fact, as we tested this the last time that we were looking at this, there were 165 students in the 3 north schools that are from the mainland that would go back to the mainland if we did not renew out-of-area students, bringing that total down by, well, let me get through the numbers. In the south schools this year we have about 99 or 100 out-of-area students. If the same ratio from last year were to hold true, that would result in over 200 out-of-area students that would be going back to the mainland, which is about 6%. So that would certainly enter into that picture and bring that capacity utilization of that group into the acceptable range, should you choose to pursue this. The North Beaches, Audubon, Cape View, Carroll, Mila, Roosevelt, and Tropical are at 88%. I would give you 2 caveats here. One, there are 6 surplus portables at Carroll that could be opened up, which would add to that capacity. On the other hand, as you're aware, there's a large ESE population at Mila, which even though it's at 72, what is it this year? Milo's at 71%. There is not a lot of room there. Their effective capacity is effectively in the mid-70s in terms of utilization at that school. So I believe those 2 offset. I'll get to that in a second. So I believe that is a viable grouping to pursue in terms of the next test. They both passed the capacity test, and then we would go to the next page, which would be the enrollment test. And what I've done here is look 3 years back to try to get a trend, and then 3 years forward, which is obviously the numbers that we're looking at for the projections. In the South Beaches, you can see that we lost about 60 in the last 3 years there, and we're projected in the next 3 years to lose 156 or another 5%, which would reduce that 93% current projection. From a planning standpoint, if you're looking at recommendations, that would be obviously a projection that would say this is something that you might want to pursue. The North Beaches, you can see that although they gained 27 in the last 3 years, that's mitigated by the fact that when we did the Gardendale rezoning, we rezoned about 243 students to 2 of those schools. So the net effect is, instead of a positive 27, we lost 216 students in that grouping on their, in their own areas. Going forward, we're projected to lose another 97% or 1.7%. I would go back to the South Beaches and say that we do coordinate closely on development with local governments, and we've accounted for in that South Beaches the Montecito, which is projected on the vacant sites to add about another 13 students, which is a rounding error on that capacity utilization. The last slide that I have for you is a schedule, and there were some, let me see if I can just reduce that so we can see the whole thing. There were some precedent activities to get to this point. I'm going to point out that the past 2 weeks, upon board direction, we have been putting together these findings for you. We're here in the X box at this meeting giving you this presentation. We're going to be meeting tomorrow with the Capital Outlay Committee to share these results with them. There's a 2-week hiatus. There's the election. And if the board chooses to direct staff at that point to pursue the second step, we would go into that closure analysis, which would be the weighing of criteria for finding an individual school to recommend within that group. A couple of weeks of that, and we would come to the board with the recommendations, which would be discussed at a board workshop the last week of November. That would, in the first week in December, lead to a series of 3 weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas of community meetings and a meeting with the COC, which is mandated by our new interlocal agreement, 30 days before the action board meeting here in January. So where we are, we would normally begin a process of attendance boundary changes or normal school closures at the beginning of October. By delaying that until November, we've pushed what is normally a decision point at the end of January to the end of February, and that really is the latest point that we can do this. I can say in closing that as planners, and Joe will agree with me here, looking at these groups of schools, we would not recommend as planners that you close a school within this group for reasons of efficiency. We have come to a point within our district after having made some tough decisions that we are where we need to be, we believe. The only reason that I would see that you would close a school is for financial necessity. That's my opinion, or that's our opinion as planners. So I believe we're there in terms of efficiency. If it must be done for financial necessity, we would take direction from the board to pursue that process.
Thank you. Any questions? Mike? Any questions? Anybody? Nope.
You're meeting with the COC tomorrow. Did they already give you their projections on these future enrollments, or is that what you're going to verify tomorrow?
I have used in these projections the projections from their information last year. We are supposed to, by our interlocal agreement, get their projections tomorrow, which we will take about two weeks or 3 weeks to put into a new set of projections, maybe a month to put a new set of projections.
Okay, that's what I want to make sure of, that we were giving them the opportunity to give us and verify current projections. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That brings us to public comment. The maximum allotted time for each speaker is 3 minutes. Clarification of information presented and answers to your questions specific to district business and educational matters will be posted on the school board's website under the section called For the Record. Please speak into the microphone and state your name for the record. Our first speaker is David Braun, then Richard Smith, then Misty Belford.
Good evening, school board. My name is David Braun.
I'm a board member of Premier Innovations Charter School, and I just wanted to make you aware that we recently provided our response to the district's matrix, and we asked that the school board review it with a open mind because there were some inaccuracies within the matrix and that we have provided for. For example, they stated that there was nothing for differentiated education. However, there's 12 pages of information in there about differentiated education. It was also stated within the matrix that the wrong form was used. Excuse me. However, the right form was used and the most updated and current form was used on the matrix. Over the last 3 years, we've cultivated many community relationships, met with the mayor, we've had a relationship with Polk State College, and there's been a great interest in Premier Innovations Charter School, and we're hoping that basically you can look at the matrix, look at our responses to the matrix and some of those inaccuracies that were included in there that we've addressed according to DOE guidelines, and just as you look at it, just sort of look at it with a fair and open mind, and we hope that you approve the charter application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Smith, Misty Belford, Elizabeth McIterian, and Paulette Combs. Mr.
Hi.
Smith.
Richard Smith, President, Brevard Federation of Teachers. I come to you today with a solution. A solution. We've just seen what can happen if we have financial distress in this county. There have been a lot of people for a lot of reasons that are other than the welfare of boys and girls opposing the half-penny sales tax. And I'm here tonight to tell you that the solution is the half-penny sales tax. We need to face the fact that the state has been starving this district for money. We need to face the fact that the people of Brevard County can do like parents would do. If we were actually a family, I hear that metaphor tossed around a lot, by the way, we're all a family when things are going well. When we see the great violinists we saw, when we see all the kids, when we've seen all the successful teachers, we know that we have a great school system. But even the greatest school system has to have money. And what disappoints me when I hear people saying, well, you know what, cut a school, cut salaries, cut this, cut that. A family would never talk like that. If a mother and father were sitting there and suddenly their income had dropped, they wouldn't say, okay, which daughter or which son are we going to get rid of? The father would say, or the mother would say, or both of them would say, I'm going to get a second job. The half-penny sales tax is that second job. It gets us through to a time and a place where we can hopefully rebound from this horrible recession we've been through. So I'm here to say the solution, and not surprisingly, I'm sure you all agree, is to pass the half-penny sales tax and to stop this nonsense that somehow or another we're overtaxed. The state cut our millage by 25%. They cut our capital money by 65%. And it's time for us to face the fact that our family needs to get together, pass this half-penny sales tax. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Misty Belford.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My message is probably more for the public than it is for you all, because I think you all pretty much know where I stand on school closures and sales tax. But obviously, I am vehemently against school closures, have been since we experienced so many closures in the North End. And I would like to thank Mr. Theodore for his brave statement tonight that if we close schools, we won't be doing it because it's good for kids or because we need efficiency. At this point, if we close schools, it's only because it's our only choice. And I would like to make sure that we carry that message forward, because the community's understanding at this point is if the sales tax passes, we're not closing schools. And so I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, that that is the message that we want to send, because there's been some discussion about that. The other thing that I'd like to say tonight is anyone who came in here waiting to see if their school area was up on that list, and maybe you took a nice deep breath and relaxed when you saw that yours wasn't, please keep in mind that we know what happens with school closures. And so I would sincerely hope that even if you are in the clear at this point, that you do what you can to support our district, to help us to get the half-cent sales tax passed so that we can avoid school closures, because I can tell you that what our students have been experiencing from the prior 2 years' closures is not something I would want to put on any child. Thank you.
Ms. Mkhitaryan and Paulette Combs.
Liz Mkhitaryan from Titusville. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why we voted her onto the school board. That's pretty impressive. I'm going to be very brief. I tried to look at all the agendas that are coming up on the school board meetings, and in doing so, I came across an item that I felt that I did need to make a statement about. While we are working with some wonderful citizens that are promoting the sales tax, and now this evening we're talking about school closures, my statement is this: there is an item for administrative salary increases on your agenda this evening. My statement is, oh my God, are you kidding?
Ms. Combs.
Good evening. Superintendent Bengali, Madam Chairman, other board members, audience. My name is Paulette Coombs. I represent Premier Innovations Career and Technical Education Center, a proposed charter high school in Brevard County. In August, we submitted a 500 pages application outlining our vision and with details as to how we are going to realize this vision. A few days ago, we submitted a 70-page response to the district's matrix because they're recommending a denial. We are disheartened. We did not think that we should have had to complete that response because we felt we submitted a great application, a DOE compliant application. However, what we did in that matrix was to show you where all the concerns and the questions that the district had have been answered in our application. If I may summarize our vision, Premier Innovations' vision is to establish a charter school that will offer a CTE program for all students. All the students who enroll in our program will be placed on a career path so that they will graduate with the skills that they need to be successful personally and professionally. Our program is needed. We've spent 3 years researching this. The first person we spoke with after a discussion and doing our needs assessment was the school board. We intend that this must be a collaborative endeavor. Our community needs this. Youth unemployment is high. We feel that it's time every student be career ready, not just college ready. And we're proud of the work that our district does. They're doing a great job in educating our kids. We looked at the SAT results and we are impressed. But what about the students who are not so successful? We're saying to the district, let us work with you. The research shows that career and technical education is doing a great job in motivating students, increasing graduation rate, and the students who are not so motivated or who are not inclined for college should be prepared for a career. All students should be on a career path, but we're saying that let us use what the research says to help you with the students with whom you're not so successful. There is a need for a program. We have met with many community organizations and community leaders, the EDC, Workforce Board. They were the ones who connected us with Polk State College because they did the needs assessment. Eastern Florida State College, they have agreed to be on our advisory board. Polk State College, a leader in manufacturing.
I'm sorry, your time is up. Thank you. Thank you.
If I may ask, my final request, we urge you to approve our application for this year because not approving it will set us back. Thank you so much.
Okay. The board wishes to thank tonight's speakers. Your willingness to speak to the board is appreciated, and we will get answers up on for the record. That moves us to the consent agenda. Dr. Bingley.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. There are 25 items under this category, 19 consent items not previously submitted for information, and 6 consent items with prior information.
Does any board member wish to pull anything?
No.
No. I would like to pull F15. So I will entertain a motion to accept everything.
Move to approve the remainder of consent.
Before we move further, and this needs to be on script, Ms. Henderson, I believe at this time we should hear from Deborah Greco from Local 1010 to report on the vote on the ratification of the 2014-2015 collective bargaining agreement between the School Board of Brevard and the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. So, Ms. Greco?
Yeah, that wasn't on here. Right. Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Thank you. I believe you all have a copy of, the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, Local Union 1010, Brevard County contract ratification vote was held on October 10th, 2014. All 3,097 support staff employees were eligible to vote. The voting results are as follows. At 8 voting locations throughout the county, 401 ballots were cast. 290 voted yes, 109 voted no, and 2 ballots were voided. I'd like to recommend that you approve the contract. I am as disappointed as you are at the turnout, but it is what it is, and I just would like to ask for your approval tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Greco. Okay. There's a motion on the floor. Moved by Mr. Ziegler, seconded by, oh, there was no second. Seconded by Dr. Murray. Is there any discussion? To approve the agenda items excluding F15. Any discussion? Dr. Krupp? Dr. Krupp?
Yes, I'd like to ask Ms. Greco if it's pathetic when you only have, what, 10%? That would be 309. It's a little more than 10% of the voting personnel able to vote. Have you done anything in terms of getting the message out? How was the message gotten out? I hate to vote for something where you got a little over 10% of our population, our employees. I feel like they haven't had a chance to have a say, or they're just so apathetic about the whole thing.
It's apathetic. Everyone was mailed a postcard, about when the vote and where the vote was going to be. Everyone received an email from me at least once with the information that they were going to be voting on. We had voting in 8 different locations throughout the district. I answered any questions that were sent to me via email, through the phone. I really don't know what more I could have done other than to perhaps pick people up at their house, put them in my car, and take them to vote.
It's not much off of our other vote that we just had. It was, what,
I know.
20%?
Right. Thank you, Ms. Greco. I appreciate your
You're
coming
welcome.
back and giving us that. It's just a pathetic situation,
It is.
I guess.
It is, and all the work that was put into it,
It's very disheartening to see that people are just absolutely not even interested in their own, in their own contract. It's very disheartening for those of us that worked extremely hard to try to get them a contract, but I really, at this point, don't know what else we can do. Perhaps we'll put it out for suggestions to try to see what folks want us to do before the next contract vote.
Be a good idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, let's vote. And the motion carries 5-0. Okay. I pulled F15, legislative priorities, and basically, we had the workshop on it, and what we did was make the changes per the request of the board, and Mrs. Nisi liked it very much. We made the necessary changes. Our legislative priorities are two: the assessment, accountability, and the funding, which coincides with what FADS had done. And yesterday, Dr. Bingley and Mr. Ziegler attended the Central Florida Coalition and was able to get the coalition to change their mind on their priorities, which was many, down to 2, so that we're all having the same laser focus on what's most important for our district. And so the Central Florida Coalition, and I think you're going to talk later about it, it did change their mind and come along with what we have suggested for priorities, and I was very pleased to see that. So what we have here is our plan is to have available online what our priorities are, and with that, we will have a communications plan for us to get the message out to everyone in our community. In addition, there are some laws that need to be modified, and the assessment and accountability laws were identified by FADS, by the superintendent's organization. And what I did with them was mark them up, some of them were really easy to mark, strike out the 30% for the end of course grade, and some of them were a bit more cumbersome, not sure what to do with the words. I'm not a lawmaker, but I did mark them all up as to where the changes needed to be done. I also, I gave copies of those changes to BFT, and Dr. Bingley is going to take them to FADS so that all of us can be working together towards the same goal, because I think that there's going to be power in getting our changes done. And it's really important that we're all on the same page. So that's where we're going with this. I just wanted to point that out. In addition, when we get it all done, we will be putting a petition on our website for people to sign and to become part of this, so that we can show our legislators and all the other groups that we will then identify, because there are education committees and committee members that we're going to have to identify and get in touch with. We're going to have a petition so that we can give all of them that information. Hopefully everybody will be on the same page. And with that, I move to approve F15.
Second.
It's moved by Mrs. Henderson, seconded by Mr. Ziegler. Any discussion? All right, let's vote. Okay. Is this where we? Well, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Just a 5-minute break to show the video. Okay. During the break, we invite you to watch our short video about the introduction to our legislative priorities called Bridge to Tallahassee. So it's just going to be a quick.
Hi, we're here with Karen Henderson, School Board Chair, to talk about some of the very important issues that are facing public education. And we're going to talk today about some of the legislative issues that we're putting forth to our legislators, and we hope that you will join us in future episodes to see how you can help support Brevard Public Schools. Karen, there seems to be a growing discourse across Florida about the accountability system and testing. Can you explain to our listeners and our viewers why exactly this is important, and why is it important now?
Well, I think it's important now because in the most recent legislative session, the legislators mandated new tests, end of course tests, for every class in every district across the state of Florida, costing districts millions of dollars and thousands of man-hours. And I think that the parents finally realize that there's just too much emphasis on testing.
So we're going to present a legislative platform to our legislators in Tallahassee. Why don't you explain the key components of that platform?
There are two: assessment and accountability, and funding. For the assessment and accountability, we want to inform everyone of what the issues are and how we can resolve them. And then the funding, we have lost 12% of our funding in our operating budget over the last few years, and 65% of our capital budget. And so it's important for the public to understand how that has occurred, and we want to help inform them and try to get better funding.
You mentioned funding. So let's take that just a little bit further. Explain the school board's key concerns about our funding. You talked about the cuts to operating 12%, 65% to capital. We're going out for a half-cent sales tax because of our capital problems. But what really are the problems? What happens with that funding? We talk about lottery money, and we hear that all the time. Explain some of those inconsistencies for us.
Well, at the end of a legislative session, you might get more money for one thing and less money for something else, but you also have money that is mandated to a certain pot, so only used on this or only used on that. Money to be used only for technology. We need it for a lot of things, and mandating technology, how you use it, and right now they give us money for it, but it's only to be used for testing and not for the benefit of the children.
Why is it important for the school board to have a legislative platform?
It is extremely important for us to have one so that our community, parents, everyone in the district knows what they are and why we need them. And what it provides for us is a way to talk to the legislature and to the governor's office about important issues.
Why now? Why so quickly?
Well, it's all come to a head, and we really need to get in front of this. The session for legislators starts in January, and they will already have things in place. They're already working on things, and so we want to change their focus back to testing and accountability.
And then what's next? What do you hope to do with this? How do you plan to move this forward?
We have put together a plan so that we can inform our community of the details of what has gone wrong and how we think we can fix them. So we're providing solutions to our legislators that we're hoping that our community will buy into, understand, and be able to communicate with the legislators. The important thing about this is that we need everyone to get together talking the same exact language to the same people. And that's the only way that we're going to be able to put pressure on them.
Okay, well, I appreciate this overview. I know we're going to do a few more installments of our legislative platform. We'll get into some of these things in more detail, but this is going to end our first segment of our legislative bridge, and look forward to future installments in the weeks to come.
Okay, if we could get Andy back here, we could.
Oh, yeah, just had to throw that in there, didn't you? I love it.
I did. Okay, that brings us to the action agenda. Dr. Bingley.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. There are no items under this category.
Then that brings us to the information agenda. The information agenda includes items for board review and will be brought back for action at a subsequent meeting. No action will be taken on these items tonight. Dr. Bingley.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. There are 9 agenda items under the information category.
Does any member wish to discuss anything on the information agenda? Ms. Nisi.
H44, the charter school denial application.
Okay. Anyone else? Nope. Okay. Ms. Nisi.
Thank you. I just wanted to let the board members know that I did have the opportunity to meet with Stephanie Archer this afternoon on this application to ask some questions, and there is a lot more to the team's denial than was what was presented here tonight. And I just, for the viewing audience, I know we as board members know this is a team of individuals that goes through these applications, and it is a application that is approved by the state, and there are still several discrepancies that have yet to be addressed. And so I would encourage you, if you have questions, to please see her or her staff, because they've done an excellent job in vetting this application.
Okay, is there any other discussion? No other items to be discussed? Are there any staff reports?
There are no staff reports on this evening's agenda.
There are no additional public presentations. We are now at board member report section. I would like to ask the board members to please include any information requests to be placed on board assigned tasks during this time. Dr. Krupp.
Thank you. I had the pleasure of attending Brevard Cultural Alliance Art and Algorithms in Titusville this past weekend. It's quite a show. If you haven't been there to see that digital, that was the closeout of it this past Sunday. But anyway, more specifically, our students were involved in creating their own digital film. They produced it and directed it. There were 9 students from all of our schools that presented. Some of the titles, and I'll tell you about the people that introduced them. For example, Florida Senator Thad Altman introduced the first set of films, Saving Our Indian River Lagoon, Life in a Shell, and Space Town Struggle. Now, keep in mind, these were like 9 to 10-minute videos that were produced by teenagers on a smartphone. That was it. That was their only criteria. They had to have a smartphone, and they could use an external microphone. And that was it. But these were, I must say, I was very impressed by all of the students that presented these. Robin Fisher, our Brevard County Commissioner for the North Area, introduced the second group of films titled 30, the documentary, Communities Youth, Lesbian, Gays, and Straights, and then The Struggle. Those were the titles that Robin introduced. And then our own Titusville Mayor, Jim Tolley, introduced the last 3 documentaries, Youth and Politics, Faces in the Crowd, and Theater Kids. And again, all of this was put on by our students here in Brevard County, our public school students. And I must say, they made us proud with taking a smartphone and producing and directing and involving their participants in 9 minutes of concise and yet a message that was presented in each one of those videos. So I thanked all of them and congratulated them.
Thank you, Dr. Krupp. I also attended that last week, and the documentary is about assessments and accountability. And Abby did a very nice job on that, and I was very proud to be a part of it. You good? I'm good. You good? Mr. Ziegler.
Well, the first thing I wanted to speak to was the Melbourne Air Show, and I wanted to thank Melbourne Air and Space Show is really the air show. And I wanted to thank our CTE department and Dennis Zableski for organizing 5 high schools to be able to attend that event. And it was actually a very unique event in that it coincided with Career Day, and it also coincided with Texpo, which was put on by the Melbourne Regional Chamber of Commerce and FIT. And we brought busloads of kids into the Texpo exhibit hall where there were technology exhibitors, and those kids got to speak with the engineers and find out what was going on, and it was just amazing, the buzz in that room. Those kids were really fired up by seeing the technology, and honestly, to the techie people, it's like toys. So it was almost like they were just, and of course all the vendors were really excited to have the kids in there. They were then shuttled into a presentation hall where they got to meet the Thunderbird pilots and some of the mechanics who spoke to them and explained to them that even though you may have some troubles in school, that you just keep at it, because one of the lead female pilot apparently was terrible in math. I'm pretty sure you need math to be a Thunderbird pilot. So there was a lot of hope in those kids' eyes when they realized that she was the most senior lead person with about 2,800 hours of experience in those Thunderbirds. Then we took the kids out to the FIT hangar and out to the runway to watch the Thunderbirds perform. And I'd like to thank Brian Lilly from the air show, the director of the air show, for asking the Thunderbirds to change their flight time so it worked out for the kids. And they performed, and they knew where the kids were because they did some of their power turns right overhead and almost blew our eardrums out. And the kids just to see the look on their face, see the look on my face, well, that was pretty amazing. What a successful event, and thank you to our CT department, Dennis Zableski and Janice for allowing that, Dr. Bingley for allowing that to happen. I wanted to speak to the Florida School Board Coalition meeting that occurred yesterday that Dr. Bingley and I attended because it speaks to the legislative priorities and it speaks to opting out of testing. It was the height of the conversation, and I was very impressed that everybody around the table thought the most important priority, bar any, was testing and the debacle that's about to unfold in front of us with the way things are currently arranged. There was no doubt in that room what the #1 priority was. And I've heard some interesting comments around the room that I didn't even consider, one of which, and maybe we've thought about this, is, it never even occurred to me that computer-based testing increases stress because students can't type as fast as they write. I could see that, but I never thought about that. There's so many inherent things wrong with the way some of this stuff is being done that some of us don't even think through. And then it didn't even occur to me that, then they said that there shouldn't be end-of-course exams in elementary because they're not courses, and they said it's developmentally inappropriate for testing at that age. The board members and the superintendents are very passionate about this conversation, and they do believe, though, that opt-out legislation will be pushed again this year, and the Central Florida School Board Coalition is supporting opt-out legislation, but there needs to be clarity in that legislation that students are not penalized and that local school districts are not penalized for doing that. And they all agreed that despite board member and superintendent efforts, we're having very little impact on changing anything. And we all agreed the legislative priority lists don't work, which is typically a list of items that we'd like to see change without any meat behind them, and we discussed that in our workshop. And they all agreed, too. They brought it up. The suggestion I made in the workshop was drafting language for changing legislation. Thank you, Mrs. Henderson, for taking the lead on that, and you did a yeoman's job on digging into that. And I know we're not legislative experts, so we're going to need some assistance to figure out how to make that stuff fly. And they also said we must team up with the community. And as Dr. Murray had said, they said the same exact thing there, that we need to work with the community to make this happen and to push that message forward. At a previous meeting, I led the conversation in the opt-out, and we're still doing some research, and when we did realize quickly during that conversation that there are a lot of penalties to opting out. But we need to continue that effort. We need to work with the community. I'd like to thank Tina I can't pronounce the name, Tina Duskachevich, for leading the opt-out Brevard group. That's going to be a very important group to work with in Brevard. I'd like to team them up with the Orlando opt-out groups if they haven't already done that. The only thing I've got to say is that as long as members of that group are bashing this board, it's going to be really hard to find a teaming effort that's going to be successful for Brevard County. We've got to work together in a focused mission to send a message, along with the rest of Central Florida, to our legislators that this has got to be fixed before it destroys education. But we were so excited to see that those legislative priorities across 10 school districts align with what we've been discussing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ziegler. Dr. Bingley? No, you didn't want anything. No?
Okay.
Well done.
You don't have a report, but I'll say this. Listening to all this, seeing that some of the things we presented, I'm just going to say I am very, very proud of this board, our leadership team. We all know. I mean, there's been high stakes on testing, and that's nothing new. That's been with us for a long time. But you have provided vision, and we have worked to say there is way more than FCAT to this game. And we are going to try to find ways to help our kids pursue excellence in a variety of different ways. And I just want to say thank you, because it really is the board's vision that really says, no, that is what we want for the children of this community, that allows us to move forward and work like that. So I am very proud of that, and I'm proud of what our organization and our teachers and our kids accomplish.
Thank you. Well, nothing else. We're adjourned.